Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on what time you're watching. This is Alex Tomaszewska, your Confidence Whisperer, and today we will be talking about website design. Today I have Abigail Jackson with me, who is a graphics designer who focuses on making designs that convert and not just look pretty. And I know that because I had a website which was quite pretty, but I knew it wasn't going to convert, so I was actually screening away from showing it to people, and then Abigail did a little bit of magic and it just completely changed the whole website. So thank you for that, and this is why I wanted to interview you today, because I know the magic that you can do. Fantastic to have you with us here today.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I know you're very passionate about graphics, and can you tell us what got you to graphics design? I know you do all sorts of designs. It's not just websites. It's not just commercials. So I think it's much broader. So tell us a little bit about your experience there.
I guess it's kind of an innate thing for me. I just love things that are pretty, but just being pretty doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna actually have the effect that you wanted it to have. But I've always loved design. I've always loved learning how things work, how things are put together, making sure that they're balanced. I used to go to the library when I was a kid. I loved going to the library. We had to take laundry baskets to carry all the books home in. And sometimes I couldn't wait to get them home. I just had to sit down on the floor in the library and read the books because I was so excited about logo design and typography and all the different intricacies of graphic design and how everything goes together, and calligraphy and anything that has to do with words or images and how they go together and make them look pretty. Because it's so important to know how to present something that people want to see. The information we present is valuable, but we have a saying. I'm from the South in the US, so we have a saying, a little bit of honey will catch flies more than vinegar. So if you want somebody to receive the information that you have, it has to look pretty, but it also has to get the message across. So that's where I come from.
Awesome. Yes, get your message across. That definitely makes sense. So the changes that you made to my website, there was no changes in text whatsoever, and there was very little changes to the graphics, but still they changed the way the message is conveyed. So you very well said. So right now we're going to go into a little bit of let's make it a case where I am a coach, because my clients are coaches, and I need a landing page. So that's fairly simple to do, because usually you have a template for that. But I also want to have my website with my main page so that it looks professional, and I just want to make it myself. What do I need to pay attention to? What do I need to put there? What are the obstacles that I'm going to run into? I know you have a process for that. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the biggest thing that I see amateur designers run into is they have their message. In this case, I'm a coach too, so I have done this myself. I have this message that I want to tell people, and I'm super excited about the message, and I'm like, but I can't afford to hire a designer. I have to do it myself. And then I do a bunch of research, and then I get overwhelmed because there's all these things, and I learn about syntax and parallax and all the words, and it's overwhelming. And then when I start trying to make the design, it's okay, I have all these things that I can do, and this one looks cool, and oh, that one looks cool, and oh, that looks cool, and I can totally do that. And then you just keep adding stuff in. And the problem is that when you're focused on the design, all you're paying attention to is the design. And the point of the page is not the design. So there's the basic principle of design that should be behind every single thing you do, no matter whether it's a website, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a Facebook post, whether it's the way you structure and format your email newsletters. The point of design is to solve a problem. The point of design is to present the solution to the problem in a way that makes intuitive sense. So think about when you have an infographic. The infographics that make sense follow a linear path. Sometimes they even have an actual path, a line that curves, that shows you where you're going. You have clear numbers. It's very easy to see. I'm sure you've seen infographics that have way too much going on. You have no idea where to start. You don't know where the step goes to the next step.
Oh,
the words are like in your face. And so they're trying to solve a problem by sharing this information. But in order to get the information across, it has to be in a digestible design. So the point of design is to present the solution to a problem in a way that draws people in, that makes it easy to understand. So the thing that I see amateur designers do is get so focused on the design and all of the options for round corners, square corners. Do I have a shadow? Do I not have a shadow? Do I have a little border thing around it? Should it be circle? Should it be square? I don't know. Like all of these design elements, they're just focused on that. And then it becomes completely overwhelming and they just add a bunch of stuff in. And that's when design takes over. So like I said, design is to present the solution. The point of whatever you're creating is the solution, is your message, is the information that you're presenting. The point is not the design. Unless you're doing an art piece, the point is not the design. And the trouble with amateur designers is they get so overwhelmed with all of these design options that they add too much stuff in, and then the design takes over and you can't see what the message is. It's like the infographics with all of the icons and the craziness going on. You can't tell what they're trying to say because there's so many design elements going on. So one of the ways to combat this is there's a couple different ways. I have a framework, so I'm going to share that, and then a couple tips at the end. So when you're going to build this, whatever it is for yourself, because you can't afford to hire a designer, I've been there, I totally understand. The most important thing is to have all the pieces of your message in place before you start. So you need to know what text you're going to put. You need to know what images you're going to use. You need to have some kind of basic idea of the layout that you want.
Really? So it's not like I put everything in and then I'm like, oh, this misses an image, so I'm just going to have to Google for something. No, it's the other way around.
Yeah, and I've done it the other way around too, but you have to go back and forth so many times. So like, my first blog that I ever did, I did that way. I would design and I would get stuff and I would make stuff and I would like just do it all at once, and it was overwhelming and it took forever because I kept forgetting something and having to go back for it. And then the problem with that is when you have your words, you write your words, you change your words, you put your images in. When you change things, it changes the spacing, and the spacing is the most important part of design. So when you keep changing stuff in the middle, it keeps changing your spacing. You have to go back, you have to tweak stuff. It changes everything. So probably my first experience with graphic design, I worked on the yearbook from my high school. And we'd have the pictures of the kids, and we'd have like, you know, we're supposed to do a spread for the field day or whatever. And so we'd have all these images and all the design elements and the weird little shapes that you can put in and the squiggly lines and, you know, yearbook stuff. And so I realized that I was adding a bunch of craziness in, and then you couldn't focus on the pictures because there was so much else going on. And you didn't know like how the page is supposed to flow. You're supposed to read it top to bottom. You're supposed to start over here and kind of work your way down. Like there wasn't any real direction on how a thing's supposed to go. And then when I kept adding stuff in, I kept having to tweak everything else, and it took me forever. So I'm like, let's not take forever because we don't got forever. So the easiest way to do it, get your text, your copy, your page copy, your post copy, whatever it is, get that dialed in first. Then decide on your images. So images literally tell a visual story. They have to go with what you're saying because they're illustrations. Instead of drawing or painting an illustration, you're using a picture as an illustration. So it absolutely must follow what you're saying. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Like one of the secret weapons, I'll go ahead and tell you a secret weapon. When people, like in the US, we do presidential campaigns and everybody has a campaign that's always like smearing everybody else that's running. It's crazy. But one time, and this was several presidents ago, somebody decided that they really didn't like this one presidential candidate that was running. And so she made this whole ad about how awful he was. Well, the words that she was saying were about how awful he was. The images that she showed were of him being in the community, of him speaking at events, of him, you know, meeting people's families. And when the ad aired, the campaign managers called her and said, thank you so much for this wonderful ad. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm trying to tell everybody how awful he is. And they said, don't you understand? People don't hear a word you say if the images are something different. People will focus on the images more than anything else. So if your images don't line up, they're not going to hear your words. They're going to see the image. So your images absolutely must follow the text of what you're trying to say. And it should go with like your target audience. So we're speaking to coaches here. A lot of you have a specific target audience. If your target audience is women 35 to 65, the images should be of women 35 to 65. If they're of, you know, middle-aged men golfers, the images should be of middle-aged men golfers. They don't have to be like completely in your face. We have a stock image of a man golfing now, but you know, it has to follow. It all has to have a theme. It has to follow. Otherwise, there's too many things going on and it's confusing. So the framework, there's 4 steps, 4 pillars, if you will. First is typography. So not only what you say, but how it looks. Second is images. We just covered that a little bit. Third is colors. And then the 4th is spacing. So I am also a piano teacher. I've taught piano for a long time, and knowing the way the notes go, we use what's called a mnemonic device. So what you can use for this is tall insects can't sing. Tall insects can't sing. Typography, images, colors, spacing. Tall insects can't sing. So first thing you do, you're going to sit down, you're going to make your design. Write out what you're going to say, write the copy. That's going to be a separate project. Don't try to do that at the same time.
Yes.
Get your copy down first. Then when you're ready to do the website, typography is basically designed for just words. So total nerd. I love typography. I love fonts, everything. So there's 2 basic.
Say one thing is here, because I think you said something very important, because a lot of coaches, until they niche down and they just nail their messaging, they would think that they would hire a website designer and they would help them come up with that, you know, sales copy or whatever copy. And what you said, and you know, my client recently, she had to get her money back because she hired somebody to do her sales funnel, and then they weren't able to come up with a copy. And so
copywriting is a different thing.
Exactly. And so the lesson here is get your copy first. If you cannot come with a copy, website designer is not going to help you with that. So fix that first and then invest your money in a website design.
Some designers will, but they're going to charge you for the copywriting piece. So some of the stuff that I do design. I also can do copywriting, but they're 2 separate charges. So if you don't want to hire somebody to be a copywriter, then, you know, you can do it yourself, but be aware that those are 2 separate things.
Well, the inability to come up with copy often comes from not having your niche, not knowing your message. And again, copywriter themselves may not be able to help you. And that's where I come in, you getting it aligned inside so that you make sure that whatever you write there, you can deliver it and you feel good about it. So there's a few steps here until you get that website. Awesome, brilliant stuff. Thank you.
Yes. So copies first, that's a separate project. Once you have your copy, you're going to make it look pretty. So there's 3 main fonts. The font is how a letter looks. There is serif fonts. Let me see. I will just draw one real fast to show you. Serif fonts are from the early ages of typesetting. So this is a serif. That little extra bit, that's what is actually called the serif. So that's a serif font. Then there is sans serif fonts. Sans meaning without serifs. These are more what people are going to. Serif fonts have a very old book feel, and depending on the style of serif, they can feel like poking needles in your ass.
Yeah.
So I stay away from serifs when at all possible.
Me too.
Sans is generally better. Then there's handwritten, which can be like super fancy calligraphy style handwritten, or I just jotted this down because I was in a hurry handwritten. So most of the time you're going to want your base font, your main font, to be a sans serif. And there's plenty of options. You could pick your own, literally. I like to use serif fonts as an accent. So like for headlines, for quotes, something that's a short, you don't want a lot of it because they can be hard to read, but something to kind of make it weighty. Serif fonts always feel weighty because they look old. So if you want it to stand out and have authority, you can use a serif font. If you want it to just be, I'm reading this, I want it to be easy to read, use a sans serif font. If you want to look playful, relatable, quirky, you can use a handwritten font to relay more personable.
That's good.
Then the second aspect of typography is letter spacing. So some fonts come real squished together. Those are harder to read. You want a font with room to breathe. So there's negative space inside the letter. Think of the space inside of an A or a D. That's negative space. There's spacing between the letters. And then there's line height.
Yeah.
So you want everything to be able to breathe. If it's too far away, the eye can't read it. And you see D, A, D, and you have no idea what it means. When you put them together so they can read, you're like, oh, that says dad. Why didn't they just say that? Like it has, but if it's all squashed together, you're like, I don't know. I'm really having a hard time finding out what that is right now. So it has to be like, you know.
I see.
Calm, confident, all of those things. So, yeah, font combos, keep it sans serif for the most part. Use a serif font to carry authority and a handwritten font to carry relatability. Now, the second aspect is images. We pretty much went over that already, but make sure that the image follows the story that you're telling. So, also, and this goes down into the colors aspect, make sure that all of the images have the same feel. The same color patterns, the same filter. If one is like super grainy and free flowing and like ethereal, and then you have like one that's really crisp, really bright, it's gonna completely mess with people's heads. They all have to be on the same plane.
So you mentioned the golfing guys, for instance. Should we put our image on, like my website on top, it has a big image of me, but would you say, but some websites of coaches, they have, you know, photos, I don't know, of happy people or those golfers. You know, I'm not a golfer, but if I coach golfers, should my photo be on the website, or should the golfer's photo be on the website, like as the main photo?
It also depends on what the website is for. So if, like in your case, your homepage is a personal brand page, you're introducing yourself as a coach so people can get to know you. The point is you as a brand. In most sales pages, most funnels, you want to use the image of the person you're speaking to because it's about them. Okay? So it depends on the point of the page. It depends on the point of the design. The point of your homepage is to get people to know you and understand you as a coach and get to know you as a brand. Therefore, having your face is the most important thing.
I see.
If you were marketing to golfers and this is a page about how you can improve your golf game, yeah, you need a picture of a golfer. And then the picture of you as, this is who I am, will be much further down and smaller.
Got it.
Remember, whatever's big is what they're going to remember.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay. So, tall insects can't. So colors, your colors need to all be in the same palette. So images and colors, when you're thinking this through, most people already have like an idea of a brand's color scheme. Like your color scheme was really strong. You had blue, red, white, or cream, and then the gold accent. So those are 4 strong colors that really stand out. So I kept the color scheme the same because you already had a really good color scheme. But if you're trying to create a color scheme, remember to keep them in the same palette and the same saturation. So these are technical terms. Palette has to do with, on a color wheel, you have all the different colors. The ones that are close together are similar colors. There's another word, I just lost it. But if they're closer together, they're more monochromatic. They're more complementary. If they're on the opposite sides, they're contrasting. And so usually you have like purple and orange, whereas complementary would be blue and green. So your colors need to be either contrasting or complementary.
Oh, I see.
In your case, you had mostly contrasting. Blue, white, red, and gold are all like the 4 points of a compass on a color wheel. So it has a very bold design because it's contrasting. If you want to go for like moms with newborns, you're going to want to tone it down. Most design is like very pink, very gray, very light blue. It's much of a softer palette. And the second thing is saturation. So saturation has to do with how strong the color is. Most pastels, they have a soft saturation. They're not very much color mixed in with the white. A bold color, like a jewel tone, is all color. There's like no white. So no matter what colors you choose, if you want to go with contrasting colors, if you want to go with complementary colors, they all have to have the same saturation amount. You can't have a pastel blue and a bold green, because again, they're two separate planes. Everything needs to be on the same plane. Okay, now the last thing, spacing. This is the most important part, and this is really the magic that you talked about that I did to your website.
Yes.
This is it.
I felt
So
that it was
spacing, for spacing, it helps if you're a little bit OCD, because OCD people like to have everything lined up, everything at right angles, like it makes sense. So spacing, remember how I said text needs room to breathe? Elements need room to breathe. If they're all crammed up next to each other, you can't tell where one begins and one ends. It's confusing as to the flow. You don't know what you're supposed to do. If there's room, you read the headline, you're like, oh, I think I want to read the next thing. You read the little bit of body copy, you're like, oh, I totally want that thing. You see the button, you're like, yes, I will click on the button. But if it's headline, copy, button, you're like, ah, right in my face. And so you have to give people, you have to give their brains a chance to comprehend what they're seeing. If it's all too close, they're going to be like, right in my eyeballs, and leave.
You make it sound so easy. It's really not.
So to make it easier, think of a ruler. Think of how a ruler is a straight line, and then you have straight lines on the ruler. When you are, especially with like English speaking websites, I don't really deal with other languages, but English speaking websites, English is read from left to right, or like the other way for you guys. So left to right means that people in an English speaking mindset are used to starting from the left side of the page and going to the right. So most of the time, it's a good idea to have things left aligned. So everything is lined up on this left ruler. That doesn't have to be the side of the page. Remember how I said things need room to breathe? But right here on the side of the page, like, it seems cramped. But if you give it room to breathe, then they're like, oh, look, we can start here and we can read the thing. And it all makes sense. And we've got like space to think. So it needs to be lined up, at least left aligned. Justified is when it's lined straight on both sides. It has to be at least left aligned for English speaking, right aligned for like Hebrew, because Hebrew is read from right to left. And then Asians are all up and down. So I don't do it those much.
Yeah.
But we've got it has to be lined up this way, then it also needs to be lined up this way. So if you've got two columns, you have left aligned here, you have left aligned there. The things in this column all need to be center lined. The things in this column all need to be center lined. The whole page needs to be connected with those. Think of them like football goalposts. You want to get them inside the football goalposts. It has to be connected within an invisible framework, a grid of lines. And the more you do it, and the more you look at websites, which I'm going to pull up real fast, the before and after of your website, you'll be able to see the grid lines. There are not actual lines because that would be like real sketchy, but a designer sees things in blocks, in shapes. So when you are looking over your design, you need to kind of let your eyes fuzz a little bit. You need to not focus on each thing. You need to be able to see it as a whole and look at, does it line up? Does it have room to breathe? Does it feel like it's in my face? If it feels like it's in your face, it's going to feel like it's in their face. So if it's not in your face and it's all lined up, then you've got something good there. So let me pull up real fast.
Awesome.
Can I share my screen? Nope.
Now let's see.
You're going to have to give me permission.
Oh, but I don't see. What's the question?
I think if you go down to share screen, you
oh,
can.
Now we go. There we go. There we go.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So let me pull up this one. So this is the original website. This is the original screen capture. So if we zoom in a little bit. Woo. Okay.
Looks Arabic. It's not really Arabic before it zooms in.
It's all a little bit. Okay, so we have you at the top because this is your personal brand. You have a headline, you have some relatable text, you have your button, like all of the elements are there. Headline, body copy, button. Then you have quote, then you have message copy, then you have like a call to action section with a video headline. This was good. This, do you see how it doesn't line up? There's no line there. That's out of line there. This is center line, which isn't terrible in a small column, but like it's wider than that one. The columns have to be the same size. Then we've got these are even across the top, but those aren't.
Yeah.
These are all center lined. And remember, English speaking read left to right. So when everything's center lined, it makes them work harder. And it's harder for them to read. Don't make them work hard. Make it as easy as possible. Right. This is good. Having the picture on the left and then the copy is good, but you see how this is so much bigger? If this is going to be bigger, it has to be on its own line. It has to be completely all the way across.
Oh,
if it's in line with this, then all of this has to line up with that. Okay, so let me go to after. Woo, okay.
Yeah, and guys, it might, for me, until I actually introduced the design into my website, I didn't see the huge difference. But the moment I did, I was like, wow, okay, yes, this is so much better.
Okay, let me see if it'll, whoa, nope. Where did you go? Come back here.
It was there.
It was there. Here we go, let's try this again. So open that up. Whoop. Make it smaller so I can see you again. Screen share one more time. All of these buttons. Okay, here we go. All right, so I don't know if it will zoom.
Yes, you just need to enlarge it a little bit.
Just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so what I did, also on your original page, you had little bars of gold around the color, which was nice because gold is your accent color, but it was too much. There were too many colors going on.
Really?
So here,
okay,
I took your background image. I put, see how it's all aligned, center line, left aligned. All of this is within the same box. This is a new section that's center lined. It's easy because it's one line. Down here, first message copy, headline can be center lined because we have one box here. Headline center lined, but all of the copy has to be left aligned so it's easy to read. It's not justified, but it's within the box. Then this button is in line with that headline because this giant box is center lined. Then we have smaller section, then we have call to action section. Now this one, I decided to go with a bigger video to get people like, oh, there's a video, I should watch it. We put the headline over here. We made the copy smaller, all left aligned, took the button. Now this one is a little tiny bit below, but this one is also a little tiny bit above.
I see.
So it's lined here and it's lined there. Then here we have lined across the top, line across the top, all aligned there, all aligned there. It's 4 even boxes.
The big thing that people cannot see now and is that actually, well, we have a difference between the enlargement of the previous screenshot and this screenshot. And actually what Abigail did is she fit everything that needs to be on one screen. And before I had it just, you know, you had to scroll down to see, for instance, these testimonials, and now it all fits in one screen. And I think that's also a big addition. Like
yeah, so that's like a next level designer thing. So when you're designing for websites, it's called the fold. So this and some of this fits within one computer screen. That's what you're talking about, one screen, one size screen. And then when you go down, this fits in one computer screen. And then this fits, plus you can see there's more, so then you scroll more, then that fits, that fits, that fits. And then you've got the last call to action in the footer.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. See how it all lines up? All boxes. Start thinking of boxes. These are not even boxes, but those two and those two are the same, just swapped.
Right. Yep.
All that center line. Okay, so it's easier to see with the visual, so I'm glad that we pulled that up. So let me come back to you now. There we go. All right, so remember, the most important part of design is the message, not the design. Good design is when there's nothing left to take away. Don't keep adding things. Don't add more elements. Don't get fancy with the corners and the shadows. Good design is when there's nothing left to take away.
Amazing. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. My website is still not ready. I want to keep those golden bars, but you know, it's hard to say no to those. I need to think about it. Listen, Abigail, this is fantastic. I really learned a lot, and I am an IT engineer, so you might think, you know, there's quite a lot of knowledge here. I'm sure people will learn a great deal. So how can we find you?
So graphic design is not my main job. I'm really a health coach. All my graphic design work is under the radar. So if you're interested in contacting me for more information on graphic design, or maybe if I can work with you on a project, you should go to my personal Facebook profile, which is Abigail Jackson, and then you can message me. Be aware that my profile is geared more towards my health coaching business. So when you get there, you're going to see health coaching stuff, but it is me. All you have to do is message me and say that you saw this interview and you're interested in design, and then I will get back to you.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you really enjoyed that, and you're going to be able to use that very, very soon in your work. And this was Abigail Jackson and Alex Tomaszewska. Bye.
Bye.